Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very special series and this special episode where we'll be talking about WordPress and SEO. So, for this very special first episode of this series, we have two wonderful experts with us who will be talking about website architecture and internal linking. So, we have Andy Drinkwater with us. I think all of you know about this guy, but still, I mean, just to give you a brief introduction, if you're not aware of this kind of father of internal linking, so this is Andy Drinkwater. He's founder of IQ SEO, and I would like to invite him to introduce himself because I would probably take more than half an hour introducing him. So, Andy, yours.
Thanks, Nitin. Hi, everyone. Lovely to be here. So yes, I'm Andy Drinkwater, owner of IQ SEO, based in the UK. And a very quick overview of myself. I've been in SEO now for, I'm getting into my 20th year. So so it seems like forever. I started in 1999, and yes, it's been a little while coming. I primarily focus on the technical aspects of SEO. And yeah, you're quite right. I mean, I love internal linking. I love architecture of building a good, like a website that makes sense to Google and to users as well. So internal linking is a particular favorite of mine. I've done a previous talk on this, and I know I've done another webinar where we've spoken about internal linking as well. So yes, that's me in a very brief nutshell.
Lovely. Well, Andy, we all know that you're master of internal linking and website architecture. Well, but it's a very broad topic, right? So what is exactly that you're focusing on these days when it comes to internal linking or in general SEO?
So the internal linking side of things, the primary focus I go for is making sure that you get your keywords, your anchors just right for Google, because it's too easy to be blindsided by all of the information that's out there. So if you get your anchors just right, if you produce something that makes sense to Google and doesn't look spammy, because it's very easy to get an over optimization penalty with internal linking as well, then I like to make sure that that's just right, as well as building silos as well. Silos is another bit I'll be talking briefly about. So yeah.
Cool. Pleasure to have you and looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you.
All right. And then we have Jesse from your favorite WordPress plugin company, Yoast. He's Academy lead there. And Jesse, why don't you introduce yourself now briefly?
Yeah, well, actually, I'm a bit of the polar opposite to Andy. 20 years ago, I was just 9, so it would have been difficult to be an SEO then. So I've been an SEO just for 2 years. Before that, I used to be a teacher at school. I taught there for 5 years. I taught English. I live in the Netherlands, by the way. And I've been here for 2 years now. I am responsible for developing our courses. So we have courses on all kinds of SEO topics, amongst which site structure, which is what we're going to talk about today.
Cool. Lovely to have you here. So yes. So you do your Academy lead there. So you do like all the planning for all the Academy stuff. So that is one thing. And you being a Dutch probably spend a lot of time on cycling as well. So apart from these two things, what else do you do these days when it comes to SEO?
When it comes to SEO?
Yeah.
Well, it's mostly just developing the courses really and staying in touch with every development.
All right.
At Yoast, I'm also in the management team. So most of the things I do have to do more with how the company works and how we allocate resources to different parts of the company. So yeah, that's it. Staying in touch with developments and creating courses that make the SEO information, which can be quite diffuse and complex, and weaving it into a story which makes sense for both beginners and more advanced users. So that's what I do. Just translate it to bite-sized bits, really.
Perfect. That sounds amazing. So welcome once again. It's really a pleasure to host you two wonderful people. So yeah, and now last but not the least probably, well, I'm Nitin Manchanda. I'm working for Omeo as Global Head of SEO, and I'm hosting this series. So thank you so much, SEMrush, for giving this opportunity to me. And yes, I also want to thank you all for the wonderful response once again. So this time we got 897 registrations for this episode, which is the maximum we have ever get in Indian market. So that's really, really amazing. Thank you so much, everyone, for the wonderful response once again. And keep throwing your questions to us. And I would love to challenge our experts once they're done with their presentation. So let's start the real show that you all are looking for. So let's start with Yese, who will be talking about fundamentals of website architecture and internal linking. So Yese, the stage is all yours now.
Thanks. I'll just share my screen.
Yeah, that looks good. Can you move to the presentation mode?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so I want to start this presentation by going into internal links, as internal linking plays a big role in site structure and information architecture because it provides ways for your user and Google to navigate your site. And it also helps Google to most frequently crawl the links you want it to crawl, making optimal use of the limited amount of resources that Google has to visit and crawl your pages. This is often called your crawl budget, and you make optimal use of it by pointing search engines to your most important pages in various and numerous ways. So before I go into the specifics of site structure, let's first explore that term, internal linking. Without any links on your pages, your website will be a total mess. Google and your users will literally have to guess the URLs of pages they want to visit. And remember, Google follows links to discover new pages and content. So internal links make your content accessible to visitors and bots alike. And on every page, links should point users and Google in the right directions. So that's basic stuff so far, but internal links can play different roles, and we're going to explore these. Some links are part of your text and direct your visitor to related content. They are contextual, so to speak. They depend on what's around them. Like if we're linking from a keyword research for your online shop blog post to find your shop's niche blog posts, to do keyword research, you have to know your niche. So if you don't follow that link, that's the message. That's context, right? These two have to do with each other, these posts. Now, other links, a different kind of type of link, they're not really part of the text on the page. They show how your site is organized, like links in menus or a link to the archive page of a category that an article was added to. They classify your content, which serves a different goal. Now, for practical reasons, it's useful to distinguish two main pillars of site structure. Organizing your website on the one hand, in which these so-called classifying links play a huge role, and adding contextual links in blog posts and texts like that. And you have to optimize both of them for an SEO-friendly site structure. So let's explore them. So on the one hand, your site structure has to do with organizing and classifying your content. This includes categorizing and tagging the content you create, so your visitors have a clear view of what belongs together and what doesn't. It also includes stuff like having your main categories displayed prominently in your site menu and on your homepage. It includes creating archive pages that send visitors to the pages they're most interested in going to. And it includes creating clear breadcrumbs. Really, this pillar of site structure is a bit like the sat nav or the GPS in American English, which tells you where to go when you're driving your car. You want to go somewhere and you don't know the exact route yet, but if you follow the clues, you'll end up where you need to be. And your site structure should act like this as your visitor's navigation device. Now, the second pillar of site structure is adding links to set up a context for all of your pages, and thus your websites. This approach to linking is extremely important for information architecture. Unlike the first pillar, these links don't structure your content visually. Rather, they connect it like a web, in a way. And that's the key difference. By following a smart internal linking strategy, you can give clues to both your visitors and Google as to which pages on your site are worth a visit. And in that sense, this pillar helps users to navigate as well. But in contrast to a sat nav or GPS, your internal links act as a personal city guide, showing you the spots you may not know about yet, saying like, look, if you like this Picasso museum, you'll probably enjoy the Museum of Contemporary Art as well. And of course, on a website, you want to point your users to your most important pages. What's also very important to know when it comes to SEO is that these links play a huge role in how Google makes sense of your site. Consider your internal linking strategy a way of showing Google around and telling it, here are the key landmarks you really need to visit. Enjoy, and you're welcome to visit anytime. So let's take a look at how you should organize your sites if you're starting from scratch and could create an ideal situation. A well-organized site looks like a pyramid with a number of levels. Your homepage is all the way at the top, where it's lonely. And then you have some category pages under the homepage, and you should be able to file all of your content under one of these categories. And if your site is larger, they have subcategories as well. For example, for Yoast.com, let me see. The pyramid would look like this. It's the homepage at the top, and the category pages: Yoast SEO plugin, SEO courses, SEO blog, and support under it. Now, these category pages have subcategory. The category page SEO blog, for example, has subcategories for every SEO topic we write about, such as analytics. And under these subcategories, there's a level with all the individual pages and posts we have on our website. So in our case, there are 4 levels: homepage, categories, subcategories, regular pages, and posts. Now, first, let's explore the most important part of organizing your site, the homepage. It goes without saying that your homepage should act as a navigation hub for your visitors, right? You should link to your most important pages from your homepage. And by doing this, your visitors are more likely to end up on the pages you want them to end up on. As an added bonus, you show search engines that these pages are important and provide links for them to follow from the page they are most likely to start crawling from, giving these search engines pathways to the exact pages you want them to crawl, which improves your chances of the page being crawled. Of course, if your site gets bigger, you won't be able to link from the homepage to all of your important pages, because that would lead to clutter, which makes it less likely that your visitors notice the pages you want them to visit. In addition, it weakens link value, also called link juice or link equity, for every individual link. With too many links on a page, every link is just a little less valuable for the page it links to. In addition to having a well-structured homepage, it's also important to create a clear navigation path on your entire site. Your site-wide navigation consists of 2 main elements: the menu and the breadcrumbs. Now, first of all, the menu. The website menu is the most common aid for navigation on your website, and you want to make the best possible use of it. Visitors use your menu to find things on your website, and it helps them understand the structure of your website. That's why the main categories on your site should all have a place in the menu on your homepage. Just like on your homepage, don't add too many links to your menu, though, or they will become less valuable, both for your visitors and for Google. Now, the structure on your site can be made even clearer by adding breadcrumbs to your pages. Breadcrumbs are usually visible above the title of the post. They are clickable links that look like this: home, pasta, lasagna. Breadcrumbs improve both the user experience as well as the SEO of your blog. They show you how the current page fits into the larger structure of your site. Breadcrumbs allow your users to easily navigate your site, and it will help them to find their way if they land directly on a subpage through a search engine, for example. Moreover, they allow search engines to determine the structure of your site more easily. And in addition to that, Google might use breadcrumbs in the search results as well. Now, I've already discussed breaking up your content into categories. Grouping topics on your site into categories can really help to bring hierarchy to your site and allow visitors to navigate these groupings that make sense. Your site structure will also benefit from adding something else called tags. The difference between categories and tags lies within the way they structure things. Categories are hierarchical. You can have subcategories and sub-subcategories, for example. Tags, however, don't have that hierarchy. Tags just say, hey, this article has a certain property that might be interesting for your readers. And readers can then use these tags to find articles that mention something they're looking for. But organizing your site is not enough. To really cement your site structure and to clearly signpost and reinforce your most important pages, you need to add a different type of internal link. You need contextual links. These are the links within your content which refer to other pages. Assuming your most important pages are often very relevant pages to refer to, and they should be, you'll link to them most often. But not only the page you're linking to should be relevant. Google uses anchor text or link text, which Andy already mentioned, and the content around the link to understand what the page you're linking to is about. So the context of your links is very important because Google is becoming better at recognizing what words and concepts are related. When you Google tagliatelle, for example, Google actually provides you with information on different types of pasta as well. It understands that these things are related. Now, the more you refer to relevant content and the more you link to important pages from well-crafted contextual links, the easier it will be for Google to understand which pages are most relevant to your visitors. And that's part of what Google needs in order to understand, evaluate, and rank your pages. I want to visualize how Google uses these contextual links with a metaphor. Let's say that your website is like a country and Google is a travel agency. which helps people find a destination they're going to enjoy. Now, to be able to give good advice, Google needs to draw a very detailed map of all the roads, your links, of all the towns and villages, right? Your regular pages, and the cities, your most important pages, the pages you really want to rank in your country, your site, right? Now, by organizing your site, you'll let Google know that your country has states, they're your categories, and maybe some counties, subcategories, and lastly, a whole lot of different places, which are your pages. But how does Google distinguish between a big city and a small village? After all, they're on the same organizational level in your site structure, as you can see here. And how does it know which cities and towns are close to each other? In other words, which pages are closely related? Well, it does this partly by analyzing all of the links leading to a page. Just like a city has more and bigger roads leading to it than a small village, so should your most important pages have more paths leading to them. Imagine Googlebot has a car hitting the road to explore your website. It's not far from how it works in reality, where it crawls through the web. So let's extend this metaphor and look at two examples. One is an important page that I'll call Central City. Think of a sprawling metropolis like New York or London. And the other, a smaller page that would be like a nearby town. I'll call it Quietville. Let's start with Central City. For Yoast, this could be the page where we sell our plugin, which is obviously a hugely important page for us. Think of it as a popular tourist attraction, which big cities often are. People want to go there, and we also want them to go there because tourism drives our economy. That's why we've got countless roads leading to it, all over the country. And these are big, big roads too. Every day, thousands of people are reading road signs, showing them the way, and indeed using those roads. And as Google discovers that there are a lot of busy roads leading to that metropolis, it can only draw the conclusion that this must be a place where people want to go. It will visit the page quite often itself to see whether new things are happening, and will advise its users to go there because it's worth a visit. And of course, the same applies to different cities across the country, whether they're bigger or smaller than Central City. Now, of course, all your links need to be relevant as well. If no one uses the roads you build, they don't have much use. And your road signs, the anchor text of your links or the content around them should be very, very clear. Like in this example, it's clear you can find more information about our plugin if you follow the link. This will help Google and your users understand what they can expect to find if they follow that road. On to the other example. Some 20 miles from Central City, we have the town of Quietville. This town represents a page which isn't necessarily key to your traffic like a regular blog post. Quietville has a road leading directly to Central City and some roads leading to and from a couple of nearby towns. But that's it. Unlike Central City, not every town in the neighborhood has a road leading to Quietville, let alone cities and towns in other states. Not that there's anything wrong with Quietville. It has a beautiful town center with a square and it has some good restaurants. It just doesn't have the allure and the grandeur that Central City does. Fewer people are going to visit Quietville, but those who do so for a particular reason and are going to enjoy it anyway. What's most important in terms of SEO and site structure is that Google knows that Quietville is not as key to your site as Central City. And that's what contextual links help you achieve. Now, one last thought. It's important not to overdo internal linking. If you build too many roads, big empty motorways between all of your pages, you're going to make a mess of your beautiful city. And it's not just that lots of big, ugly roads are an eyesore. Google's going to be suspicious as well of your attempts to trick it or get confused about which destinations are the most important. Be careful to craft your internal links to provide useful, relevant signposts without just linking everything up to everything else. The last thing I want to briefly touch on is how you select your most important pages, because this works a bit differently for blogs than it does for e-commerce sites, for example. For blogs, you usually set up a big, all-encompassing article that really covers a topic, which you link to from several smaller articles that break down the topic into smaller pieces. In these cases, contextual linking is key to showing what's important on your blog. Now, for e-commerce sites, your category or archive pages are probably easiest to rank with. In those cases, setting up a clear organizational structure and then optimizing these pages content-wise is most important. Okay, let me just sum up some of the key points. Internal linking is key to site structure and information architecture. Also, the two main pillars of a good site structure are organizing your sites and a good contextual strategy. And you want to create a site pyramid with your homepage at the top, and then some categories, probably some subcategories, and then regular pages. And you want to make your site easy to navigate with a clear menu and breadcrumbs. You want your contextual links to be relevant with a good anchor text and context around them. And you want to show search engines and users what pages are most important by linking to them extensively. Okay, that's what I wanted to share with you guys.
Thank you so much, Jesse. It was amazing. You just nailed it. Well,
Thanks.
who says we need like a lot of hours to understand fundamentals of website architecture and information, basically linking informational part of your website? Well, who says it needs a lot of time? I mean, you just did it 15 minutes in a perfect way, and I think everyone should be really happy about this. All right, so we covered the fundamentals now. So yes, I did a perfect job. I hope you all are really happy about the content like me. So now let's jump to the advanced level. And for that, we have Master of Internal Linking and Architecture with us. That's Andy. So Andy, stage is all yours now.
Thank you very much. Right, okay, so let me just get the presentation opened here. There we go. And then, there we go. Right, so hopefully we can all see this now. Does that look all right?
Yes, perfect, yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Right, okay. So a lot of what was spoken about by Jesse was absolutely spot on. The architecture of a site is paramount to creating something that's useful for users and useful for Google as well. So when you want to do internal linking, what can you expect? Now then, I show this one because it is probably the one that gives the clearest signals of sort of internal linking, and it's the one that I use on other presentations as well. This was for a client site, and this is what happens when you get your internal linking right. You can sort of see where I started working on the site in January, and the huge amounts of growth that happened from there as well. And an internal link is absolutely key for explaining your pages to Google. So what does a good site look like? As a very sort of base level, you want something that's when Google looks at it, it makes sense. You want a clear architecture. You want a clear you want a clear hub for people to be able to sort of find the way around, and for Google to find the way around as well. And this is an example of a site with a nice, clean setup. I say so. The architecture is just right. You've got the home page in the middle. You've got your category pages around there, and then you've got supplementary pages going out from there also. That to me is the epitome of a nice site architecture. And then on the other end, you've got things like this. This was actually a client who came to me some time ago, and I'm still actually working with them as well. And you can see what's happened with the internal links. If you try an internal link from all over the place, all of a sudden your site becomes an absolute mess. Signals get confused. Google doesn't know where it's supposed to be going. And you can see down towards the sort of the bottom middle there, you can see the home page sort of nestled away. And then I think, if I remember rightly, I think it was 22 clicks to the most furthest reach articles that we've actually got on there, and the site itself is perfect in terms of showing what happens when you try to overdo your internal linking. So as Jess has already spoken about as well, creating a good site architecture is absolutely key. You want something that makes sense. You've always got your home page. Then you've got your tier 1 pages, which are usually your top level category pages. Sometimes these are the pages, the hub pages that you actually want to rank for key phrases. Sometimes it's your second tier, but these are generally not considered to be your key terms. Your product pages, these are the ones that they generally just rank for long tail phrases within Google. And you'd create a structure like this to try and explain to Google how your site is set up. And this is where you start getting into siloing. So from your home page, you've got a very clear link through to your tier 1 pages. So when you get to your tier 2, this is where you can start creating silos. So everything within the structure on the first 3 on the left-hand side here, these are going to be about a particular product, a particular service, something that is going to be the same throughout. So if this was an e-commerce site, for example, you might have the first set of your tier is going to be talking about, on the 1 you've got bathrooms, on the 2nd you might have garden furniture, on the 3rd you might have something to do with home furnishings, interior design, that sort of thing. What you don't want to get into the habit of is when you're setting up a silo is cross internal linking. If you do your cross internal linking and get it wrong, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. What you're basically doing is you're telling Google that your home furnishings has something, even if it's just like a loose link, has something to do with your bathroom furniture. And that's not how silos work. You want to, within a silo, it should be all encompassing. It should be everything to do with a particular product. So you can very easily contaminate a structure by getting your siloing wrong and your internal linking wrong as well. But ultimately, this is what a good site structure looks like. And as I say, yes, is a perfect example of what they do with Yoast. Everything is kept within key areas. So what do hub pages and product pages look like? If you're on your website and you're looking to see what makes a product page, what makes a hub page, if you're looking at a site that sells, as I've done an example here, like say vacuum cleaners, now then your products, they are your particular products, like I say the Hoover TMI 2019 bagless cylinder vacuum. That isn't necessarily going to be a hub page, purely and simply because that is your product. It's going to be something that is going to be a long tail phrase that somebody wants to actually find the actual products itself. Your hub page is your cylinder vacuum cleaners, and this is your key money phrase. This is going to be the phrase that you actually want people to search for, because that's where the search volume is at. It's absolutely fine having a well set up product page, but your hub pages are the ones you want to get people to, so they can actually make the choices. And the same goes with the second example here. We've got Rattan Garden Set 4-piece sofa and chairs. That's your product page. You wouldn't have that as a hub as well. Your hub for that would be, for example, outdoor garden furniture. So making sure that you can identify which your hub pages and which your product pages is going to be very, very important to understanding how you're going to set your site up. And it might be that your site doesn't have a clear structure like this, and that's not a problem. I can sort of explain that in a little bit as well, because it's not always as obvious. We don't all have e-commerce websites. Sometimes we might just have a site that provides a particular service. And then in that case, it might be that your homepage is the page that you actually want to promote more. So we'll come on to that in a little bit as well. So there we go. So how do you find your power pages? So this is probably the easiest way to get an idea of what Google knows about your site and which are your most important pages for a particular search. So this, I've taken direct vacuums as a perfect example of a site that Google understands which is the primary page and which are the next most important pages. So if you do use the site colon command, that's going to be again a hugely important part to actually understanding what Google makes of your site. And then you use a space, and then your quotes, and then you put your phrase within the quotes as well. Hit enter, and it will show you everything on your site that Google understands about the structure of your site and the pages related to that particular phrase. These are going to be the pages you can actually utilize. So the first page, that's your hub page. Everything below there is potentially a source page to add an internal link from, to actually go straight through to the hub as well. And the reason you do this is because you want to make sure that you're passing as much power internally from your pages, as well as making sure that the context of the links also makes some sense. You want to make sure that the power of these pages is passing as much as possible. So if you get down to, I don't know, link 100 within the search results here, by the time you've got all the way down there, that page is loosely at best related to the phrase itself, to the actual product. So at that point, you're probably going to be looking at this and thinking, well, it's not going to be of any use to me. So there comes a point where there's like a cutoff, and it's different for every single site. You'll know when you do this on your own site. You'll be able to have a look and you'll be able to understand which are the hub pages, which are the good source pages to be able to add the internal links from. So as you can see there, hub page, next most powerful page for this particular phrase. So it's all about making sure that you understand which is going to be the pages you can use. So let's just have a quick look. So SEMrush actually has a really useful tool, if you've not already used this as well, the related keywords tool. So when you're actually using this, what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to actually find phrases that make sense to what it is that you're talking about. You don't want to, as it says there, point one, be generic. Your hub pages are almost never a product. And this is probably more obvious on an e-commerce site than it is on a site with a particular service that's actually being sold or being offered. You don't want to confuse the two. And then you want to find a range of phrases and search volumes. The reason you do this is because you want to create something that is as natural as possible to Google. So if you're talking about vacuums and bagless vacuum cleaners, you don't want to have something that is going to be too generic. You want to make sense of the keywords. Google needs to understand them as well. And we've again, like I say, yes, I also mentioned this. Like I say, you can actually overdo your internal linking. Don't go too far with it. It's not necessarily going to be something that's needed on every single page. And if you try too hard, like I say, you can end up with over optimization penalties. And as we'll see in a second, your best phrases are not necessarily big search volumes. So this is a perfect example of what you want to be looking for. Now then, I've highlighted the phrases that make sense, because when you're talking about contextual links as well, and contextual anchor links, you want to have something that's going to make sense to the page. You can't just shoehorn into a site something that says Hoover Sale UK. That won't make any sense as a phrase, as part of the content of the actual page itself. So you want to first of all look for something that's going to make sense, that you can actually add into the content, and this is related to what you're actually talking about. Now then, you wouldn't necessarily use this many different anchors. I've highlighted these to give you an example of the types you can look at. I mean, the first one you've got here, by vacuum cleaners, vacuum cleaner or vacuum cleaners, has a search volume of 480, but it's highly related. If you go a bit further down, by cheap vacuum cleaners, has a very low search volume, but is also a very strong, very highly related phrase. So you want to make sure that you're getting a good mix of search volumes and also of related phrases as well. The biggest phrase on here is just vacuum, 14,800 in the actual search volume. And I can't really think of any time where you'd really want to use that on a site that's talking about vacuum cleaners, because it's too generic. It's just a vacuum. That sort of says nothing about the actual page itself. You want to actually find something this is going to make some sense. So I would never use just a single anchor, or that's not entirely true. I would very rarely use a single phrase anchor unless the site or the page actually called for it. Vacuum cleaner deals in the UK, vacuum cleaner sales, these are all hugely related to what it is we're actually trying to do. So where we've got here vacuum cleaner sale or vacuum cleaner sales, big search volume, highly related. These are the sorts of phrases you actually want to get into the page, and these are the sorts of phrases you want to make sure that you're adding to your structure. So how do you do that? It depends a little bit on the product, and it depends a lot on the site as well. If you've got a site with lots of pages, and I did see a question for this pop up as well, and we'll sort of talk about this as well. If you've got a site that you want to make good use of internal anchors and internal linking, you really need to have a site that's got quite a number of pages already on there. And if it doesn't, then you need to start writing some content. It's almost impossible to make a good internal linking structure from a site with just one or two pages. It really doesn't do an awful lot. But if you build the site out, then that's going to make more and more uses. So how do I use these? This is purely and simply through testing what I've been using now for, I don't know, 2.5, 3 years. So your primary page, your hub page, is about vacuum cleaner sales. That's your primary hub page. And from there, the anchors and pages I've got to use on the site, I've seen that I can actually get quite a number of various anchors into the structure. And as it shows there, there's 30 that we can actually use into the structure. The strongest is always the one that gets the most uses. But then as you come down, you're actually adding into the mix, you're adding in the additional phrases that are related but have a lower search volume. And the reason you do this is to keep it looking natural. Nobody is going to add in 30 internal anchors all talking about vacuum cleaner sales, because as Google's going to know, it's going to be the biggest search volume. If you do this, this is where you start coming undone with internal linking. As long as you've got a related anchor to your primary page, then you can actually add good content, good phrases around the anchor itself as well. So buy cheap vacuum cleaners, buy vacuum cleaners online, buy vacuum cleaner offers. Incidentally, don't be afraid to add into their plural if it's not an option. If it makes sense to add a plural into the anchor, that's absolutely fine. Don't be afraid to stick an in there as well. It's anything that makes it make a little bit of sense. And the final bit here, try and keep your anchors towards the top of the page. Google still pays the most notice to the anchors with the most prominence. And there's a bit of testing that I've done as well, which also shows that you can actually get away with using 3 to 4 anchors on a page, but it's still the first one that makes the most sense. So always try and keep your strongest anchors with the most prominence. So that is me done talking about internal linking now. So I could have gone on a lot longer than that. I was just very conscious of time. Are we all right for that?
Absolutely. I know. I mean, you can speak about this topic for days continuously, but that was amazing. I mean, covered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. You were saying something.
Oh yeah. So yeah. Just wanted to sort of finish off by saying as well as it is very, very easy to get an over optimization penalty with this. So it is important to and the slides will be available in via SEMrush if anybody wants to sort of look at that again, to make sure that you use something that makes some good sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm definitely expecting a lot of questions. So a lot of people are asking questions anyway. So and we have a huge list of questions already. And when you talk about such amazing stuff, people ask a lot of questions, right? So and we have now limited time. So let's jump to the Q&A. And if there are any unanswered questions here because of time constraint, feel free to catch myself, Andy, or Jesse. They'll be more than happy to answer your questions, everyone. All right, so now I think we should quickly jump to the questions. And yeah, so let's pick the first one, which is from Ashish Yadav. The question is, I have a blog about programming with 5 to 6 categories. My question is, should I link intercategory or only category to category? So who would want to answer that question? Maybe Andy wants a quick break
Yeah,
after
yeah,
speaking 20 minutes continuously.
yeah,
Or you
absolutely,
want to
yeah.
speak about it?
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, sorry. Yeah. So if you've got a blog about programming, so let's just have a look. So 5, 6 categories. Should I link into category or any category to category? I'd say if you've got something like that, it's where it makes sense to the site. I mean, if you've got a product, sorry, if you've got a particular service that's being spoken about in terms of programming, and that has a good lead into another area of programming, you're not going to fall foul to any penalties from Google with that, because the whole context about the site is to do with programming. So it's not like you're going to be cross-contaminating. Moving between different sort of products, different sort of services, anything like that. So I'd say with that, if it makes sense, then I can't see that you'd be able to create a silo structure around programming specifically. It'd be quite difficult, and you'd have to be very aware of what it is that you're actually doing, and you wouldn't want to necessarily talk about development and then try and separate that from talking about PHP, because the two sort of go hand in hand. So I'd say you're pretty safe to sort of do what makes most sense with that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you so much for answering that. Yes, sir, would you like to add something here?
Yeah, just definitely look at what makes sense in the context. For example, our blog has categories like keyword research and SEO copywriting, and you can't really separate them. So you'll have to, right? When two topics are so close to each other, you're going to have to link to each other because it makes sense. And also, you make your site for your user, right? So you have to create a site that is of value to your user. So yeah, that should be the main starting point from, should I do this or not? Is it
Absolutely.
valuable for the user? And if it is, just do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I see a lot of people are actually, doing a lot of things only for search engine bots. But yeah, as you mentioned, you should think about user first. And if you can make your user happy, then search engine is happy anyway. So that should be the first thing. All right, thank you so much, Jens, for answering this question. I think Ashish got the satisfactory answer here. If not, Ashish, feel free to catch us. All right. So the next question is from Veggie Einhorn. Well, that sounds like something German. All right. But the question is it better to include the category in the URL? For example, domain.com/recipes/chocolate-cake or domain.com/chocolate-cake. What do you think about it? Maybe Jesse, if you want to answer this question.
It depends, as it does a lot of times. With these shorter URLs, it doesn't really pose a problem. But of course, if you have multiple categories and subcategories, it can get a bit complex, and you don't want that. So domain.com/recipes/chocolate cake makes a lot of sense from a user perspective as well. So I wouldn't, I don't have trouble with that one. But there are a lot of cases in which you want to be careful of getting too long. So in those cases, I wouldn't want to do that, but this is fine, I think. And it also gives a little extra clue about how your site is structured. So it's actually a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Annie, do you want to add something here about these?
Yeah, the only thing I'd sort of, the only thing I'd say about Nitin is that if the site was nothing but recipes, then you'd be fine with a flat structure.
Yeah.
But generally, no sites are just without other content as well. I mean, you're going to talk about recipes. You might talk about additional. You might have blog posts to talk about. In that case, you want things within your blog. You can still use the flat structure with that as well. But you've got to be careful if your site is if you're going with a flat structure, be aware that you're going to be stuck with that. Really, I mean, you can sort of break out of it if you want to as well, but you don't really want to be doing that partway through a site. So if it makes sense, if you're very, very specific and you only talk about recipes, then you'd be all right with flat. But I'd be quite uncomfortable doing that myself if I'm sort of talking about that sort of site.
Cool. Thank you so much for answering that. I would totally second that. So yeah, thanks so much, guys. And now let's move to the next question. The question is from Pankaj Kumar. And the question is, so basically he wants to understand the difference between linking from the menu, top menu, versus internal linking from the content section versus linking from the footer. So what is the difference exactly if you link from these different places? And how does Google see that, of course?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I've not said I'll go with this one, but do you mind me talking about this one very quickly first? Is that all right? Yes, sir.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So the menu itself. So if you're looking at internal linking, Google pays next to no attention to your header or your footer in terms of the benefits you get from internal linking. The only benefits you'll get from internal linking are contextual links. So there's absolutely no problem with having a good heading, good header structure, but I'd limit what goes in the footer. And the reason I'd limit what goes in the footer, because at this stage, you're now into PageRank sculpting, which is another level of internal linking and was talked about many, many years ago and is still very, very alive today as well. So you want to make sure that as much as possible, as much sort of page juice, link juice, whatever you want to call it, goes from a page to a page that's got an internal link from it. If you've got 30 footer links within your site, all of a sudden that's 30 extra links that Google's got to crawl. And that's 30 extra times that link juice that's available on that page is actually going to be sort of distributed out again. So I'm a big advocate of keeping down the number of footer links within a site. Your header structure, your menu should be something that makes sense to the user. Doesn't really matter about Google, that's just there for the user as well. So it doesn't matter if that's where you start off and you go through to your category pages, or if that's where you start off and that's where you go through to product page, whatever it is, you need to have a good menu in there. But your internal links is where your benefit to Google comes from. So that's the point where we've got to start doing the internal linking structure. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, do you want to add something here?
No, I think that was pretty comprehensive. So
absolutely, I think he covered from A to C. So totally, yeah. All right, thank you so much, Andy, once again. Then, so we have a couple of questions, kind of similar questions from Akash Deep and Payal Tana. That Akash is asking about wallpaper website, like what should be the super critical tips from internal linking perspective, and then Pyle is asking the same question about e-commerce websites. So how about doing a quick exercise where you can probably quickly speak about some pages which should be really, really important for a website, which is e-commerce versus travel versus wallpaper versus some other websites. Maybe some examples.
So sorry, Nitin, which question is this one? I'm just looking here
that's question number 11 and 12 in this
11 and 12.
shared document. Yeah. So this is basically Akash is asking internal linking tips for wallpaper website, and Pyle is asking internal linking tips for e-commerce website.
So for e-commerce is an awkward one, because e-commerce sites can be absolutely huge, as we'll all know. Like I said, I mean, internal linking from an e-commerce website can be a real chore. But it's not without the ways you can actually do this. So you can actually sort of do good internal linking from an e-commerce website if you've got good, strong pages that are related to a particular product, a particular phrase. And I'd go back to what I said about how you sort of do a search using semicolon and the phrase to actually find which are your most powerful pages. And you might find that if you're searching for something to do with a particular product, that you've got a whole host of other pages that can actually still be used. But you wouldn't want to use a page talking about, I don't know, hair dryers, then going powering something to do with shoes. So even if there's something that Google sees is related, you wouldn't want to do an internal link on that. For something that's a little bit easier, then you want to be looking at the content that the site's already got available to it. If you've got a site that's got a good content, I mean, I shared something on Twitter yesterday about a client who I've done some work for over the last sort of 4 months, and they've seen a jump from a page going from nothing to position 1 in 4 months. Now then, I was lucky with this one because they've got a lot of really good content already on the site as well. So there's no problem with me finding good content related to their homewares. That wasn't an issue at all. So if you've got something, an e-commerce site, then you need to look and see what additional supplementary pages are available to you. If you're doing e-commerce internal linking, it's no different to standard internal linking for a site that just offers sort of services. The premise is still exactly the same. You want to add an internal link from a page that's related to a particular product, going through to a page that's your hub page. That's what you still want to be doing. But hopefully, there'd be some additional content that can also go on there as well. Does that answer those ones?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much for the detailed answer.
That's
well,
okay.
E-commerce for sure deserves that. It's a real, I mean, it
Oh,
can
yes.
be really complicated sometimes. Yeah. All right. And Jesse, you want to add anything here?
Yeah, of course, on those product pages, you can also think about related products, and bundles are especially interesting if you have a site which lends itself to that. So adding products to the attention of a user that is interested in the product on the page. Just a small thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on that particular note, so sometimes when you implement your recommendation modules, that's based on users' search history as well, and then order history and other things which are very, very related to user, right? How do we handle this for search engine bots? Because they will be coming from headless browser. They won't give you any history. So how do you handle recommendation modules from search engine perspective when it comes to internal linking? What do you think, Andy?
How do you handle them?
Yeah,
With
yeah. So if you have
the,
a if you have a recommendation module on a website that
yes.
That eats your browsing history, order history, and all these things, and based on that shows you something. But that is not what search engine bots see as well, because they won't give you order history or browsing history, right? So
Yes.
how would you kind of recommend a generic module that Google search engine bot sees as well?
Well, you'd hope that you'd capture enough information from the user sort of going around the pages to be able to put something on there as well. But you'd probably want a static on there as well as something related. You wouldn't want something that changes on a user basis to be something that you'd want to try and get indexed. It wouldn't work. So you'd want to have something on there that maybe mentions half a dozen products, something like that in the recommended product section, something along those sorts of lines. So you'd need to have something in there if you were going down that route. And again, you'd be talking about the anchors, but you'd have to be careful because it would be very, very difficult to try and automate internal anchors like this. So I'd go down the safe route and just go down something more generic to do with the actual generic product itself. It's difficult to get that one right, but you see it on a lot of e-commerce sites. Automation of that is something you'd have to test.
Absolutely. Well, this was the same thing that I was discussing here internally, like a couple of months back. So we have a website, and on the homepage, we pick your current IP location, and based on that, we show you, some recommendations. So we were wondering how would Google see that, because Google mostly comes from US-based IPs. So if they land on any domain, they will only see some, recommendations for related to those IPs only. So that's the wrong way of implementing it. So we thought of implementing something generic which explains the website architecture in general for bots or users without any history or without IP location, like with generic IP location stuff. Yeah, just to solve this problem. So yeah, thank you so much, Andy, for answering that. Yeah. All right. So that's, I think, a lot of questions. So we are still getting questions. So now I can see 10 more questions in the list. So I don't think we'll be able to answer all of these questions, unfortunately. But all right, so maybe we can pick one more question. So the question is from Pankaj Kumar. The question is, like we have keyword density case studies, do we also have something for internal linking? Like how many internal links a page should have ideally?
There isn't a right or wrong answer to this. It depends on the page. It really depends on the page. I mean, if anybody's wants, like I say, I mean, I've got some stuff on my website that I can sort of share later on, that shows some of the work that I've sort of done in terms of internal linking. But it's in terms of case studies, I do actually have something on the blog, which is sort of work that I've sort of done, and it goes into more detail about what I've spoken about. So there is something I can sort of share with regards to that. So I can grab that for you later on.
Perfect. That'll be great. All right. Yes, do you want to add something here real quick?
Just a more general point that in the spectrum we're in, it's really difficult to come up with these studies that lead to definite answers, because there's so many variables on different sites, and it's also a matter of experimenting with it a bit. So not leaning too much on information that might be skewed, because research in this area depends on so many variables which are tough to isolate. So that makes it difficult to rely on that data.
Absolutely. Well, there is no magic number. Yeah, but again, on this particular topic, I would recommend keeping a user-first approach. So if you think your user would be looking for, let's say, 10,000 links on a single page, if you think that would be useful for user, go ahead. And if you think probably 5, 6 very relevant links that would be important for user, yes, I think that's a good way to do it. Yeah. So go user first only. Don't think about a lot of links, and that can annoy your user and search engines as well. So don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I try personally. Sorry, Nitin, just nice. I try personally to keep it down to within. If it's for a natural internal linking structure, I try and keep it down to like 2 or 3. Try and keep it very, very focused within the content itself.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I think we have answered a lot of questions. So thank you so much, Andy and Jesse, to complete your presentation in allotted time. You guys are awesome.
Thanks.
And thank you for answering all those amazing questions that our users asked us. And we still have some questions which are unanswered. So I would really request all of our users to catch me, Andy, or Jesse after the show, and we'll be more than happy to answer your questions. So for that, you would need our Twitter handle or LinkedIn or Facebook or phone number to answer this to ask these questions. So for that, I would now invite Andy and Jesse one by one to share their key takeaway for the day, along with the preferred communication channel where people can catch you with their questions. So Andy can start maybe.
Right. So the key takeaway for the day is make sure you do your keyword research. You want to make sure that you're looking at your keywords in context, and for that I would suggest, like I say, if not using SEMrush, then something else that shows you search volumes to be able to understand which are your most important phrases as well there. So in terms of internal linking, if anybody wants to sort of reach out and ask me any questions, just at IQ SEO on Twitter. I pretty much live on there. So if anyone's got any questions on that at all, then please do feel free to reach out to me at any point.
Perfect. And I would also recommend you checking Andy's blog. You would see some really amazing content there. So you should definitely check that. All right. So now it's your turn, Jesse.
Yeah. So the same thing goes for me. Any questions? Welcome to ask them at Jesse Teaching on Twitter. So JESSE Teaching. And my key takeaway is something we touched on a couple of times, that you always, in this case, have to go for what is valuable to the user, because that's what's going to make you a usable site and is going to link your sites together. Always have the perspective of the user top of mind, and the rest will come. With the 2 pillars of site structure, organizing your site through categories, tags, menus, and breadcrumbs, and then the other one, adding meaningful contextual links with good context and anchor texts.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I'm available on Twitter at _Nitman, or you can also search for my name on LinkedIn or maybe Google. My profiles are kind of search friendly. So I'd be more than happy to answer your questions there. And once again, thank you so much, Andy and Jesse. It was really a pleasure hosting you guys.
Yeah, you're welcome.
The content of this show was amazing. I would definitely probably go through it once again, because I was focusing on multiple things. So yes, I want to focus on the content once again. All right, thanks so much, guys, once again. And thank you so much, everyone, for the wonderful response. You guys rock. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.